The Museum of Westward Expansion presents the life of a pioneer. While in the museum, you will experience the thrilling adventures of a pioneer traveling to the West. Through our exhibits, you will shake with excitement as you discover the beautiful landscapes of the West, along with the dangerous difficulties of the journey that will make your hair stand on end. Each day held a new and exciting adventure for these courageous pioneers. Join us as we explore the crazy adventures of the Wild West.
Westward Expansion is a settling and exploration of the land west of the Mississippi River. Westward Expansion began in the early 1800s and did not cease until the early 1900s. The pioneers ventured into the West by wagon, train, horseback, and even on foot. The newly purchased American West offered more freedom and cheap land to those willing to explore it. The idea of manifest destiny, the belief that it was the destiny of the American settlers to expand across the continent, had captivated the American people and gave them determination to start their laborious, yet rewarding, journey to the West.
Early Americans wanted a better life. A better life could be obtained by moving to the West. Most pioneers who moved to the West were immigrants. With more people coming to the United States, the East was becoming more crowded, which made people want to move towards the West. There was a lot of land for groups to settle in. The groups of pioneers could live where they wanted, communicate to each other, and the children learn English. Pioneers could live in the West, and no one would know. They could live off the land without buying it and not having to pay taxes for it until several years later when their settlements were found. By that time, pioneers who originally had no money could afford the land. And this is a picture of the log cabin in which one would build. This is a picture of a schoolhouse in which children would learn their English because most who moved were immigrants and had a different language. This is an example of a crowded city in which made pioneers want to move to the West, and this is the beautiful landscape that awaited them. As Hurt Hovland explained in a letter back to Norway, this is a beautiful and fertile country. Prosperity and contentment are almost everywhere. Practically everything needed can be sown or planted here and grows splendidly, producing a yield of many-fold without the use of manure. Law and order exist here, and the country is governed by wise authorities. This is just a brief chart of the prices of common items then and now. Back then, a land of acre cost $1.25, and the tax was only $1 per acre. And a cow could be $18. As you can see, now it's a higher price, but that's also due to inflation over time. But even still, for then, the prices that you see are extremely low.
Traveling west held many horrendous challenges for the pioneers. It was a horrible load of work for them to travel dozens of miles every day, usually by oxen-pulled wagons or by foot, through the unknown land of the West with violent illnesses and limited amount of supplies. The wagons were extremely heavy and sluggish due to the fact that they were jam-packed with many months' worth of supplies that the pioneers took with them for their difficult journey. The wagons could not travel as one body because progress could not be made with such a large group of people trying to move at once. The settlers were required to go out and hunt for food, such as buffalo, every day in order to survive. Another angering difficulty is that the land in the West was so expansive that no correct judgment could be formed by sight. This means that objects or destinations that the travelers thought that they could reach in a 2 hours walk may be a day's travel away. The pioneers could only rely on their own wits to devise the means to overcome each danger and difficulty as it arose.
The days of a westward pioneer were long. At 4 a.m., the day would begin with shots fired from riflemen around the camp, declaring that it was time to wake. Across the 2-mile-wide camp, people would proceed to pack their belongings and cook themselves breakfast. Breakfast must be completely finished by 7 a.m. sharp. That is when all the wagons embark for the day's journey. Wagons would stretch for 3/4 of a mile and would proceed west all morning. Come noon, the pilot of the wagon train would direct the wagons into 4 columns for the lunch period, a time for rest and for friends to converse. Soon after, the wagons would set off again until the evening. When the time came for dinner, a barricade would be formed from the wagons, and dinner would be had. The pioneers had the remainder of the evening to converse with friends and eventually sleep. Altogether, a day would be considered successful if even 20 miles of ground were covered. There are many unique and important roles for travelers to fill as they moved west. The pilot, as mentioned before, directed the wagons and was in charge of keeping the wagon train on schedule. Some pioneers were hunters. Hunters often left the long line of wagons to chase down buffalo or other game for the group to eat later on, as you can see in the picture here. Other pioneers rode horses at the front and rear of the line. These horsemen determined the speed at which the wagon train traveled, and they also led the group along safe paths. You can see an example of one here. A very crucial member of the group was the doctor. The doctor dealt with any injured or ill in the group. If a sickness was discovered, the wagon of the ill person was removed from the line as the doctor treated them. The other main role found in pioneer groups were groups of armed men who kept watch over the camp at all times of the day and night. Everyone traveling had a role to do, and everyone was useful.
As you walk in the footsteps of American pioneers, you will experience a whole new world in the Wild West. The journey will be magical. The journey will be treacherous. According to Jesse Applegate, the way lies over trackless wastes, wide and deep rivers, rugged and lofty mountains, and is beset with hostile savages. Yet, whether it were a deep river with no tree upon its banks, a rugged defile where even a loose horse could not pass, a hill too steep for him to climb, or a threatened attack of an enemy, they are always found ready and equal to the occasion, and always conquerors.